So for the midterm, there the exact specifics of how many of which you're going to need are all going to be discussed next Friday, along with how to set up exactly your animation timeline. Um, but just to give you an idea of what I'm looking for, these examples they have more interactivity added, much more than you guys are going to do. They have far fewer assets because they did more of the coding and stuff. You guys are going to do a lot less coding. You're going to do much more just creation of things. All right, so you got your character assignments, which everyone got something randomly assigned to them, including myself actually. And I just want to show you what some people did for this. Now this is a borrowed background from somewhere. You can't do that, right? No finding random things online. But one of the things you're going to have to make is a splash screen. Something like, hey, come on in and play this game. And some buttons. And then you're going to have to make a character. In this case, by the way, this is by someone who proclaimed they can't draw. So this isn't about perfect draftsmanship necessarily. All right, but the character is going to need some sort of still cycle. That's what we call this, where they're kind of just hanging out. Some sort of walk cycle. Some sort of jump. And then I'm calling these hit and wave. You don't have to hit anything and you don't have to have your character waving. What you have to have is something that happens once, right? Like some sort of thing that you would press a button and it would happen once. And some sort of thing where you would press a button and it would go continuously until you let go of the button, whether it's a keyboard or pressing buttons on here. The other thing you're going to want to think about is your character is going to need some sort of variation. This one's real simple. Alright, but I want to show you just what some other people came up with for their characters, because they're all very, very different. They all had different takes on this idea. This person actually did this in Photoshop. Clip art is acceptable if it is from something that is free use, basically. People put up artwork all the time that is free to use or free to use with attribution, meaning you give credit to the people who made it. But we have little walk cycle. Let's see. There's the jump. He has his character, he kind of waves, but he only waves once. Let's see. So here we've got a character with a lot more animation on him, a lot smoother animation. Bit of a walk. Let's see. There we go. Jump. That's the thing that he does continuously, is that he falls asleep. And they didn't do a variation on the character, they did a variation on the background. But it's the same idea, coming up with variations on something in the game. This person, there we go. So I really enjoy the splash screen because it's completely different. And they've got some really nice looking buttons here. And then the character is not quite much motion on it, but huge jump. And they have a change in expression, so the cat kind of gets angry. This person here, again, not much into the art of it. They add a lot of interactivity though. And they had a shark. They have him trawling. And he has something else that he does, but I forget what it is. There it is. He can have his fin thrown. So that would be a hit, right? That's a one-time thing. Whereas this would be, we call it the wave because it's the thing he does multiple times. And you can see that the animation doesn't quite loop. So that's one thing we're going to look at, is making sure the animation loops perfectly. But we're going to talk about that next Friday. You guys don't have to do any animating right now. It's just thinking about your characters, starting to get them on paper. So it's a very simple looking character. And then there's one thing. There's the other thing. Alright, so you can do a lot with very simple shapes. It doesn't have to be, remember that the legs, you don't have to have whole legs with upper leg, lower leg, and foot. Just most of these characters have had just one part to their foot. All right. And just so you can kind of see what we're working with here, I've talked about, oh, you should stay organized. This isn't quite organized. Things are labeled, but they're kind of just all thrown in there. So we're going to want to make sure we stick with folders. The animation is very organized. If you look at the timeline, you can see there's that buffer, very important, between each one. And in this case, all the keyframes do line up with each other. That doesn't have to happen. It might not necessarily. But at the very least, each section is separated from each other section. That we're going to be working with labels on each section. That's how you get all the stuff to work. Once you guys get your timeline set up, I'm going to, not the next class, but the following class. You'll come in, your timeline will have to be set up. You won't have your animation done yet. But I'm going to give you the code to punch in so that you can, run your game and at least look at how it works, right? You're not going to have to come up with the code all on your own. I'm going to give it to you, and as long as you put this together and name things properly, it will work, right? You'll just, the only thing you'll have to change is the name of your character, and that's it. All right, so that was the sort of homework assignment, was get started on your character. What your character was given to you by this name out of hats pulling thing, but what they do is entirely up to you. As long as you include in it some sort of, like, you don't have to do the animation yet, but think they have to move. They have to have some sort of run, some sort of jump. Right? So they have to have those different pieces to them so that you can do that. But you can put them in any setting that you want. We've had deserts and psychedelic crazy places and beaches, interiors, whole 9 yards. Alright, so that is, like I said, full details will be coming next Friday in terms of exactly all the other assets you'll have to make. And so hopefully I'll see you guys then.